Hi, all Bones here from BSA Bantams, and welcome back to the workshop. It's been a little while since I put a video out because if you didn't really know, I've been away for basically a couple of months back over to the United Kingdom, Isle of Man. Came home for 8 days and then flew out to India and I rode a motorbike through the Himalayas, which was pretty epic. But that's for another video when I get all the footage together for that. Anyway, back into the workshop and I'll give you a rundown of what we're up to. So I'm about to fit the engine and muffler up to the Jawa. I've got some things to sort out with the tailpipe and I'll give you a rundown on that. But first of all, we'll go down the other end of the workshop and I'll show you basically what Justin's been doing whilst I've been away. Okay, so what we've been up to, that's a full bag of these. And they're the chain adjuster caps that go on the back of your axle adjusters. Now, we haven't been able to source these for a couple of years now, so the wholesaler that we were getting them through, they just don't stock them anymore. So we've developed these ourselves. So, oh, well done, knock the camera. So I've made a press die up. So we get these laser cut as a flat development and then we press the form into that little press die. Now over here is the actual chain adjuster for a plunger bantam. So obviously they've got the bigger axle and bigger axle nut. And that's a whole bag of them that they're already done. Over here in this bag, we've got smaller ones of these for the smaller rigid axles and axle nuts. So if you didn't know, the rear wheel nuts on a Bantam rigid are the same as the plunger Bantam front wheel nuts. So I'm talking the plunger Bantam with the axe head front forks are a bit wider, so that's the same as a rigid rear. These are just the threaded portions that we've machined up, and I'll just take you over to the weld and jig in a sec. Over here I've got nuts and spring washers ready for once we zinc plate all these up and get them ready for sale. But we really need these because we've basically just run out of secondhand stock. The secondhand stock I've got left is not really salvageable. Like some of them you could blast up, re-zinc coat, and they look $1 million, but we've just run out of them as well. So it's time to get onto these because we really need them for restoration work. Over here is the welding jig. So we obviously put this part in and put our threaded portion in, spring loaded. It holds everything together while we just tack weld it. So we made up a special jig. We're going to have to make another one for the rigid adjusters because they're different proportions to this, like hole center and things like that. But that keeps everything nice and straight and flat and holds it while you're welding it. So yeah, we've been up to that. So this is the engine tailpipe, and they had it fitting on something like that. So the bolt went through there, but as you can see, it really needs some sort of sleeve arrangement or something to obviously take that slop up in there. However, you can't just slide something on because you've got this in the way. So the problem is I haven't got the parts list I've got doesn't carry this bike, so I have no idea what was originally in the bike. So I've got to try and make something up. I've got the baffle out, which obviously sits in the back, and it had this cap in there, which I think is really, really restrictive. So I'm going to drill some holes in the end of this cap. I'll put the cap back in and give the baffle a clean up. But I've got to try and nut out what I'm going to do here, because obviously I can't have something like that. And it also had a clamp of some description around here, which I think There was a little bracket coming off the frame, and I think it might have had a loop in it to not only clamp this, but to actually support the end of the pipe. So we'll get to and we'll nut something out. Okay, so we've got the exhaust fitted up to the bike and it fits up very well. I've got clearance between my exhausts and my barrel over here. This mounting bolt here, I had to put a slightly longer sleeve in just to roll that muffler over into the vertical. So that looks all right. So I'll give you another rundown now. Looking at, I've only got 2 pictures of this bike, and they're both in what do you call it? Sales brochures, and they do have the big long tailpipe like this. So there is actually another aluminium cover that goes over here, but this is the issue I've got. I've put the baffle in, so that's as far as it goes. So I think what I'm going to have to do is make a cap to go over the end of this, same internal diameter as that and long enough so when it slides on the lines up, it's hitting the baffle inside, and then make a split section to slide in here that will clamp up. So that way I've got support on 2 pieces, because I can't just make a sleeve to go in here because you've still got this end up here. I'm looking at this hole elongated and wondering if that's what's happened. Now, interestingly enough, I think this chafe mark here was where there was a bracket sort of broken off hanging here, but where it mounted to has got me stumped as well, because there's nothing that really lines up to it. I know I've got everything in the right spot, but anyway, I'll crack on and get something turned up and then work out what I'm going to do with this clamp. So I think I might just make something up and what do you call it, just paint it. Well, this, as I said, there's supposed to be a cover over here that I may make. I'm not sure yet, but I'll see how I go. Anyway, let's crack on with it, see if we can get it done. Sometimes doing this stuff, you've got to have a win. So I've just had a win. This pipe is 1/2 mil smaller on the inside diameter than the outside diameter of that. So I only have to take 1/2 mil out, and it's 1 mil bigger on the outside diameter. So I only have to take a mil off to fit that. I'm so happy instead of having to turn up a full piece of solid and bore it and carry on like a pork chop. Got to have a win. Probably can't see much, but you know. So what I'm doing is actually boring out the start of this piece of heavy wall pipe, and that will be for the outside diameter of the existing exhaust over there. So I'm going to take it off. That one. All right, we've got our adapters made up. That's a tap fit on here, and I'm sorry, I'm just going to move the camera and show you in the end, if I can. You'll see I've put a shoulder in there, and that is in an attempt to try and seal the exhaust gases coming back and leaching down here. Now I had to split this one open a bit to get it over the nut, but what I'm going to do now is put a Jubilee clip around it, squeeze it back up, and then put the tailpipe on. So my apologies going handheld, but we have got our clamp made. Now I would have shown you the process that I actually used, however the camera battery decided to go flat. So what I'll do from here is actually paint that up black and refit it. Next jobby is the cover that goes on the muffler. So this is our muffler cover, and it's a little bit, it is a bit scabby surface wise, so I am debating as I sit here whether I should polish it, given that, I'll just move this out of the way, sorry about just bringing the camera around. The side cover there is polished, and that panel sits right there, so I actually think it'd look really good if it was polished, given that, you know, this thing's got new rims and vapor blasted hubs and all that sort of stuff, and just have a pretty scabby looking thing sitting on the side might detract from the look of the bike. So I think I've just answered my own question. So I'll start prepping and polish that. So that's our side cover for the muffler, and luckily enough the sun's shining perfectly through the skylight, and I'm just wondering if you can pick up all this. It's like crazing or something in the, it's nearly like it was cast, but it's not, it's been stamped. So I just think it's had a fair bit of corrosion over time, and we'll see if we can get that out. I'm going to use a Josco kit for polish and alloy, and we'll get into it. I'll put those on the drill and we'll see how we go. So the scratches in the pitting from the original corrosion in it are pretty deep. More so, these sort of sanding kits are for really polishing, but I've got to get all these scratches and corrosion pits out, so I've opted for a bit of wet and dry to start, and it's just a bit of elbow grease, and I've got no other real option, have I? We'll just keep getting into it. It's going all right. Changing out the soft mop to a stitched wheel, bit of rouge on it, and we'll get into it. So we've got it all done. That's our full exhaust system. I'm happy with the way that the heat shield came up. It's not absolutely perfect. I was nearly forced to leave some of the patina in it, but I chose to anyway. Like you can see down the bottom edge, it's been hammered a bit. So in order to get that out, I have to start hammering it. And you know what happens when you start whacking aluminium, it stretches and things like that. However, my primary cover and the chrome tailpipe, they're not perfect either. So tailpipe's on, I've got the baffles in, screw in there, screw in to retain my baffles. You just sort of make out the band clamp I made there. So I am pretty happy with that. I think it's come up pretty well. Looks apart. Certainly pops, the shiny bit pops a bit against the all black exhaust. So what's on now? It's probably time to get onto some electrics. Alright, I'm not sure in a previous video if I showed you this, but this is basically my electronic ignition mounted up. It's the same components I use obviously for my bone CDIs as well, so it'd be pretty stupid not to use them, especially when I know how they all work pretty well. So what I've got to do now is, because the Jawa is a bit of a different setup, so there's a cap that'll go on here, and actually there's a through bolt through into the end of the crankshaft. There is no key on the Jawa crankshaft, so you'll have to set the rotor, give it a tap, lock it up. But the more important thing is, once it's locked up, I need to be able to get it back off. So what I've got to do now is I'm just going to go and cut a thread in here and make a little jacking bolt so I can withdraw the rotor from the crankshaft. Then I'll be running some cable, setting everything up, and then starting to wire it. So that will start with the CDI being wired up first, up to the reg rectifier and everything like that, and then we'll get into the actual bike's wiring. There's a few other little jobbies front end wise I have to do, but I need a hand to get it up on the center stand and crank the back of the bike down to get the front wheel up. So I'm not happy there's a positional issue with the front wheel. It's not a major. I'll have to go back through. I think I may be missing a washer or a spacer somewhere, but I'm not 100% sure. I've gone through the parts list and it looks like I have everything, but whether they were right in the first place is another matter. So I'll go and investigate that a bit further on. But for today, I'll just keep progressing this. This little dog in here is your clutch mechanism that goes over there. I just had it sitting there before. So yeah, things are progressing again on the bike. Hope you've enjoyed this video. I know it's a bit of a short and sweet one than my usual ones, but going on to a couple of other jobs. I've been summoned by the boss, so it's time to head off and do some stuff for her. So as I said, I really hope you enjoy it. To all my subscribers, and the subscriber count is growing, so to all my new subscribers and my old subscribers, thanks very, very much for your support. It's really appreciated. And hopefully I'll be able to get into some more stuff very soon. The Jawa is progressing, and I'm pretty keen to get it done. My Harley Davidson, we've got, you probably saw in the background, Justin's bike up on the bench. We've just done about 100,000 K service on that. New tyres, powder coated wheels, the whole works and jerks on that. That's not far off being done. And then might be tackling the engine on Harley Davidson after nearly a year of being apart. So it'd be good to get that one on the road, especially when it's riding season now in Southeast Australia. So thanks very much once again, and I'll see you later.